We even owe Mexico $22 billion. I mean, the list goes on and on. Where we were once a great country and we exported goods, now our #1 export is debt. That's a scary thing. We're the greatest debtor nation known to man. I don't think it can go on forever. One of the ways they then print it, if they cannot borrow enough, one of the ways they pay for the debt if they can't borrow is they print money. The Federal Reserve does this. Last year, in the middle of this crisis, the Federal Reserve increased their assets. It's kind of a funny name. Assets means they just printed up money and bought stuff. Basically, they bought bad assets. But their asset sheet grew by $2 trillion. And they won't tell us where they spent it. We're supposed to be in charge of the Federal Reserve. It's not quite an official part of government, but Congress created it and is supposed to be in charge of it. Federal Reserve will not tell us where the $2 trillion went. Now, just recently, my father passed a bill called Audit the Fed, and they're supposed to now tell us where that money went. But the story is that 40% of that $2 trillion was spent on used car loans, bad used car loans, and bad home loans. So whereas we once had a dollar that was linked to gold up until about 1971, there was some link. Since 1971, there's been no link, but at least for the most part, they bought our own debt. They bought treasury bills. But now they're buying used car loans, these credit default swaps, which if someone understands them, explain it to me later, derivatives, all of these fancy investment vehicles that really may not have certain value, they're buying. The Federal Reserve also bought a lot of them from Goldman Sachs. It's a revolving door between government and Goldman Sachs, and they won't tell us what they paid, but the rumor is they paid 100% value for things that may be only worth 10 cents on the dollar. They won't tell us where the money's been spent. We have to get things under control. I don't think it will happen with the usual politicians. If I thought what we were usually presenting would make things better, I'd be happy just to practice medicine, stay in Bowling Green with my kids and not do this, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time away from my family to do this. But I am truly worried about the direction of our country. I'm worried that it may get out of control, that it's not just our kids and grandkids that will pay for this debt. I'm worried that we may pay for it almost immediately through depreciation of our dollars. As that money floods into the system, many of you in this room will remember 1979, 1980, when interest rates went up to 18%, inflation was close to that. Those could be difficult times, particularly those on fixed income or lower income. If you have rapid inflation, your savings can be wiped out in a matter of a couple of years. I think we have to get government back under control. I think we have to do it. I don't think we have a long time to do this, and I hope you will consider helping me move forward with this. There are only about 500 votes in Kentucky in Logan County for Republicans, because still a lot of, I just had to convince even my in-laws to become Republicans. But I asked him, though, I said, well, when's the last time you voted for a Republican for president? He said, well, Kennedy. And I said, well, that's been a while. You need to become a Republican. But a lot of people in Kentucky have been registered as Democrats. They've been conservative. There are good people who are Democrats, and I don't think it always is a party thing. But if you want to help me in it, you got to register as a Republican, because my main race is in May. We've been doing pretty well. When we started out, the polling showed us behind 36-25 in August, so 11 points behind. 2 months later, we had a poll and we were ahead 35-32. I think that's because people are ready for somebody new. They're ready for a message that's not just the same old politicians that we always get, and somebody they believe will shake up and change the system. So I think the message is resonating. In addition to the message, we have something else that's pretty important. We've raised a lot of money. We've now raised almost $1.6 million. We're in the middle of a money bomb today. If you want to see what a money bomb is like, look at Chris's computer here, and he'll show you. We have a ticker on our computer that shows the money being raised today. We spread the word on the internet, and we say, give us money all in one day. And we have about 13,000 contributors, average donation under $100. People go online, contribute by credit card, and today we've raised 120, 130,000. We think we'll make 250,000 by the end of the day. In August, we raised 450,000 in one day. These are the two records for Kentucky for raising money online. Now, people have raised more, you know, with big PAC donors at big fancy dinners, but no one's ever done it this way before. This is the first time it's ever been done. And it's some of what Obama captured as far as getting a lot of young people involved and getting people on the internet involved. So we as Republicans need to learn some, not by their words or their philosophy, but by how they mechanically ran a campaign, because they They kicked our butt in the campaign, and we've got to do a better job. But I think we can. I think this is going to be a year. I tell people if there's ever a year for an outsider like myself who's never held office before, this is the year. The Tea Parties are big. I gave my first speech thinking about this last April 15th, and we had 700 people on the square in Bowling Green. That's a lot. That's the biggest event I've ever been to in Bowling Green, political event. We had 4,000 in Louisville. The biggest GOP event I've been to in the last 7 months, 200 people in Louisville. So you can see how the Tea Party movement's big, and it captures sort of discontent that's out there, and really sometimes discontent with both sides, but we need to shake it up. Because you look at the pork barrel process. You've got Robert Byrd's been up there 50 years from West Virginia. They've paved every inch of West Virginia. But before you say it's just the Democrats, you look at Alaska. It's been run by Republicans for 40 or 50 years. All their federal officers. You remember the road to nowhere that everybody was complaining about? It was an earmark by Republicans. So you've got them on both sides, and that's why term limits would limit how long they're up there. So instead of the money being spent based on the seniority of the senator or the congressman, we still will spend some money. There's a lot of money, but we should spend only what we take in, and the project should be spent on the quality of the project. We will build roads. Let's build the best roads, not just in the district of the guy who has the most seniority. And let's not spend more than we take in. I mean, those are pretty simple concepts. But I think they can appeal to people who are Republicans as well as Democrats. I think there are many issues that I talk about that do. I mean, being opposed to the bank bailout and giving rich Wall Street bankers million-dollar bonuses when they drove their companies into bankruptcy, it's never been that way, and we as Republicans never believe that, but Democrats don't either. 70% of Democrats were opposed to the bank bailout. The only people for it were the people we had representing us in Washington. And they say, oh, if we wouldn't have done it, we would have had a disaster. Country would have been, we would have been ruined. Well, we're in the middle of a disaster. So that's just their word against our word saying it would have been worse. Nobody knows whether it would have been worse or better. Bankruptcy is a bad thing, but also a good thing. Out of bankruptcy, companies restructure and rebound sometimes. Fruit of the Loom went bankrupt. It was sad. People lost their jobs. But out of that structure that was left, Warren Buffett bought them. AIG, we put $180 billion into that. About 2 weeks after that, they went to a spa trip. Their executives, $250,000 spent in one weekend getting manicures, pedicures, and massages with our money. That shouldn't happen. I think people are mad about it, and I think they'll vote for somebody new. And I hope you'll consider supporting me. Thanks for coming out today.